Good afternoon to all. My topic is impact of groundwater quality on the cost of drinking water production. Production cost depends on many factors. Those are electricity, salary and wages, water treatment chemicals, transport, maintenance cost and so on. My case study only based on water treatment chemical cost. As all we know, National Water Supply and Drainage Board conventional water treatment process consists of these steps: aeration, coagulation and flocculation, sedimentation, filtration and disinfection. And also process-related water treatment chemicals are alum, lime, bleaching powder, polyaluminium chloride and gas chlorine. And also process design is based on groundwater quality and quantity. My case study based on Calendar River. It covers 80% of the water supply in Colombo and suburbs, and Calendar River has 13 number of intake points from upstream to downstream, and daily extraction is 1 million cubic meter per day. Apart from that, Calendar River water is used for transportation, hydropower generation, fisheries, storage disposal, irrigation, and so on. Because of these activities, Calendar River has become most polluted and threatened river in Sri Lanka. In here, you can see some picture of water pollution in Karen River. This is mainly due to agricultural runoff, domestic and municipal effluents, and effluents that has been discharged from the industries located around the Karen River. Of industries in the Karen River basin. And also, it has been identified that Karen River is being polluted day by day due to these industrial discharges. As example, Viagama export processing zone discharges 15,000 meter cubes of treated wastewater effluent per day, and also Sitawak export processing zone discharges 10,000 meter cubes of treated wastewater effluent per day. And also ambient water quality standards are frequently exceeded in the middle of the river basin close to the Sitawak industrial zone. Those are COD, BOD, dissolved oxygen and heavy metals. And also average annual estimation of the mass of sediment passed by the Hangwala Bridge has been calculated as 2,350 tons. It has been calculated considering for 5 years from 2010 to 2015. When I come to importance of my research, type and quantity of the chemicals used in treatment process depends on the raw water quality. As all we know, high pollutant raw water required different chemicals in high dosages, and low pollutant water required low dosages in treatment process. And also this shall be highlighted with the chemical usage in upstream and downstream water treatment plants. Therefore, chemical cost to produce 1 cubic meter of water in upstream 95 cents, and when it comes downstream it's 1 rupee and 35 cents. My objectives are highlighting correlation between water pollution and usage of water treatment chemicals, and also achieving financial savings by managing groundwater quality. My case study time duration is 1 year. Selected parameters were turbidity, pH, total dissolved solid, and microbiological parameters. In here, I have selected three water treatment plants. Ruwanwela water treatment plant represent upstream. Biyagama and Amadala water treatment plant represent downstream. Data and information related to the chemical usage and water production were obtained from the water treatment plant monthly. This is the comparison of raw water quality with the quantity of the chemical usage from upstream to downstream. In here, you can clearly see turbidity, pH, and total dissolved solid in Ruwanwela treatment plant is comparatively low when it compares with Biyagama and Amadale. And also, chemical usage is comparatively low in Ruwanwela. According to the figure, Ruwanwela raw water turbidity is 5 NGU and Biyagama and Amadale is in between 15 to 20. And there is no significant pH changes from upstream to downstream in Karen River. Average total dissolved solid of the raw water in Ruwanwela is 22 mg per liter, and when it comes to Biyagama and Amadale, it's varying between 40 to 45 mg per liter. Here you can see chlorine demand also increases with microbiological contamination. This figure shows the monthly microbiological contamination in Ruwanwela and Biyagama. According to this figure, the Total coliform at one well is below 1000 mpm per 100 milliliter and Biyagama maximum 140,000 mpm per 100 milliliters. These analytical data reveal that raw water quality in Calendar River at 1 well 8 is comparatively good when compared with Amrutali. Therefore, chemical usage is comparatively high in downstream water supply scheme. This is the cost analysis. This has been done only considering water treatment chemicals. Production cost per cubic meter for one well is 96 cents. For Biyagama, 1 rupee and 32 cents. For Ambatale, 1 rupee and 8 cents. When it comes to production cost per year, 0.95 million rupees for one well, 85.1 million rupees for Biyagama, 210 million rupees for Ambatale. Therefore, if the downstream water quality can be maintained similar to upstream water, we can save 23 million rupees from the production cost from the Biyagama and also 2 million rupees from the production cost for Ambatale per year. Altogether, 45 million rupees can be saved from the downstream water supply schemes. Therefore, removal of high turbidity raw water need more coagulant and also greater time for pH corrections and more disinfectant in downstream. Therefore, chemical cost per unit production of drinking water is high in downstream. And also, Ambatala and Biyagama water supply scheme produce significant amount of drinking water out of the total production. Therefore, chemical usage is also high. Management of the Calendar River basin is the best solution for this. It also helps to improve the raw water quality and protect the ecosystem, and also activities have been identified by the Calendar River multi-stakeholder partnership approach project. Those must be implemented and also strictly adhere to the siting policies. CA must monitor the issuing of environmental protection license, and polluter pay concepts can be implemented, and also implementation of an interceptor swell line from BOI outlet to downstream of Ambatale. Developing and sustainable maintained Pattivila marshland is an eco-friendly manner. And finally, diversion of Pattivila canal to the downstream of the intake points can be implemented. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vanyarachi. Next, we have Engineer RDV Kumari Silva, Senior Engineer attached to the RMWDP, and her title of the research will be Hydrothermal Treatment of Sewage Sludge to Produce Biosolid Fuel, Improvement of Fuel Properties. Ms. Silva, the forum is yours.
Honorable guests, invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to present my research findings in this research conference. I'm Dilini Silva, a senior engineer attached to Ratmalana Moratuwa Wastewater Management Disposal Project. My academic supervisor is Professor Songfang Lei from University of Tsukuba, Japan. The research topic is hydrothermal treatment of sewage sludge to produce biosolid fuel. Here's the outline of my presentation. Let's begin the presentation highlighting the importance of this study. Sewage sludge is one of the byproducts produced during the wastewater treatment process. As this sludge may contain partially degraded microorganisms, inorganic and organic matter, disposing of them without treatment can have an impact on environmental degradation due to water pollution, soil contamination, and so on. Compared to the commercialized sludge treatment methods, landfilling, composting, anaerobic digestion, and incineration, underdeveloped hydrothermal treatment has distinguished features in terms of its mild reaction conditions, scale of production, and less land area requirement for construction. Hydrothermal treatment is a thermochemical process. It can convert wet biomass into valuable byproducts such as bio-oil, biogas, and biosolid fuel according to the utilized reaction conditions. Hydrochar is a byproduct formed from the hydrothermal carbonization. It has several practical applications as a soil conditioner, as an absorbent for a chemical feedstock, and as solid fuel to generate energy. Annually, about 2.25 million metric tons of coal is imported for 900 megawatt coal power plant in Sri Lanka. 10% of the country's energy demand is supplied by this coal power plant. However, Sri Lankan government is targeting 394 megawatt energy generation from biomass by year 2050. Coconut coir dust was selected as an additive material to improve the higher heating value of sewage sludge, solid fuel produced from the sewage sludge, considering the annual production of the coconut coir dust and availability, and the less ash content of the coconut coir dust after combustion than sludge. With all the above rationale, in my study, the objectives of this study were to assess the feasibility of coconut coir dust addition to improve the higher heating value of solid fuel derived from sewage sludge, and to investigate an optimum mixing ratio for sewage sludge to coir dust. Moving to the materials and methods. The experimental raw material, dewatered sewage sludge, was collected from wastewater treatment plant in Ratmalana. Co-hydrothermal treatment experiments were conducted at an predetermined optimum reaction conditions, that is 150 degrees centigrade temperature and 30 minutes of holding time according to the mixing ratios shown in table 2.1. Both raw materials had water content more than 80%. 50 grams of sample was hydrothermally treated with 100 milliliters of deionized water in a hydrothermal reactor. After 20 minutes of centrifugation, the separated solid product was then dried in an oven for 24 hours. Proximate and ultimate analysis were conducted to determine the characteristics of produced hydrochar. These are the equations that were used for the calculation of parameters. The energy balance of solid fuel production was evaluated considering the heat energy input to the reactor, thermal energy consumed by the drying process, and the energy recovered as a solid fuel. Moving to the results and discussions. First, the characteristics of improved hydrochar. As you can see, the carbon content in the produced hydrochar has been increased up to 42.35% from 34.41%, which was found in dried sludge. In addition, ash content of the hydrochar 1S-HTC1 was lower than the hydrochar 150-HT30. However, if char to be combusted to generate energy, it should have high carbon percentage and lower ash percentage. According to table 3.2, the higher heating value of the produced hydrochar has been improved up to 19.48 megajoules per kilogram in the solid fuel produced by mixing sludge to coconut coir dust in the ratio of 1:1, and its energetic recovery efficiency was also as high as 0.99. This Van Krelven diagram illustrates the qualification degree of the produced hydrochar. It can be stated that the qualification was attributed by dehydration and decarboxylation reaction during the HT treatment. The quality of the produced hydrochar can be state that it can be comparable to peat, low rank coal peat. The energy balance of the hydrochar 150 HT30 production was estimated considering 1 ton of sewage sludge being treated to produce 150 HT30 hydrochar. A total heat energy input to HT system was calculated as 1200 megajoules to heat up the solid and liquid content up to HT temperature. About 476 megajoules heat energy has been consumed for the thermal drying of the separated solid product. Finally, the energy output recovered as a solid fuel was calculated as 2506 megajoules per ton. Hence, the energy analysis was resulted a net energy gain of 770 megajoules per ton in the 150 HT30 hydrochar production. Compared to the quality specifications published by the Lanka Coal Company Limited, the ash content and the elemental compositions of the produced hydrochar, one is HTC1 was higher, and its higher heating value was much lower than the higher standard heating value of 26.36. Based on these experimental results, this study can be concluded as mixing of sewage sludge and coconut coir dust in the ratio of 1:1 was able to increase higher heating value up to 19.48 megajoules per kilogram. Fuel properties of solid fuel derived from sewage sludge can be reasonably improved by adding coconut coir dust with a maximum energy recovery efficiency of 0.99. The produced hydrochar 1S HTC1 and 3S HTC1 were competitive with low rank coal peat according to the qualification degree. A net energy of 770 megajoules per ton can be recovered by 150 HT30 hydrochar production. It is further studies are necessary to carry out techno-economic analysis of solid fuel production and applicability of hydrothermal water used as liquid fertilizer in the future. These are the references, and first part of this research was published in Science Direct last year. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Silva, for that presentation. And the final presentation in the technical session 1 will be carried out by Engineer P.A.G. Gunatilaka, Deputy Project Director of SHIFT. And the topic of her presentation, her research presentation, ladies and gentlemen, will be effective iron removal in groundwater with polyaluminium chloride as a coagulant. Engineer P.A.G. Gunatilaka, the forum is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. My research is on effective iron removal in groundwater with polyaluminium chloride as a coagulant. This research we done with the KDU undergraduate student and the chemist Mr. Rohit at RSC Western North contributed. This is the content of the presentation. Presence of iron in groundwater led to many water in Sri Lanka due to excess color odor, taste, and turbidity. Also, presence of iron in groundwater causes stains in clothes and surfaces when residual iron is above 0.3 milligrams per liter, and clogging of pipes due to iron bacteria growth, and also it increased O&M cost for cleaning pipes. And there are different guidelines provided by different authorities. In WHO 1996, a test threshold of 0.3 milligrams per liter is recommended. However, there is no guideline value in the version of WHO 2004-2006. However, European standard of 0.2 milligrams per liter is based on more improved water quality, and it gives a desired level of 0.05 milligrams per liter. Number of customer complaints were recorded due to excess iron in water, and some consumers returned to use of unsafe surface water due to bad groundwater because of iron. Therefore, there is a need to have a highly efficient and also low-cost iron removal method for financial and operational sustainability in water supply facilities. Why this research is important? Groundwater as a water resource is important, especially when the surface water is limited. Iron is commonly present in groundwater in many parts of Sri Lanka. Reducing iron in treated water is important to have a healthy distribution system and to improve the customer satisfaction as well as willingness to pay for water. In this research, we aimed to find an iron removal method which will treat to levels below SLS values, that is 0.3 milligrams per liter, limit to produce an operationally sustainable and customer satisfied potable water. The objectives were to reduce iron levels in groundwater to 0.1 milligrams per liter when the initial iron concentration is in the range of 0.5 to 3 milligrams per liter, and to construct an operationally sustainable water treatment process for small-scale water supply schemes in terms of cost and complexity. What the method we used is to oxidize ferrous and precipitate ferric hydroxide to remove iron from water. Because Fe2 plus is colorless and present in dissolved form, the ferric hydroxide is in solid form and in brown in color. So rather than adsorption at the rapid sand filter, we tried to remove before rapid sand filter. Different initial concentrations with different pH values and different coagulant doses were tested in the research, and for alum and polyaluminium chloride were tested as coagulants. Water samples were taken from Medigama water supply scheme, and initial iron concentrations were in the range of 0.5 to 3 milligrams per liter. And these are the water quality parameters. All color turbidity are above the standards, but all other parameters were below SLS standards. And in our research, we aerated raw water for 20 minutes with using a bubble aerator, and then using the jar test apparatus, we mix at 180 RPM for 1 minute, then again 120 RPM for 4 minutes, and finally 40 RPM for 6 minutes. And we kept for settling for 10 minutes. And these are the results we obtained when alum is used for the water as the raw water, we didn't see thick flocks formed, and the flocks formed were small. Therefore, the efficiency, maximum efficiency we could reach was below 60%. And then we use the polyaluminium chloride. With polyaluminium chloride, when the pH is from 7.5 to 8, we could reach an iron removal of more than 96%, and the residual iron concentration was in the range of 0.1 milligrams per liter, which is satisfactory. Therefore, we can conclude that polyaluminium chloride can be used as a coagulant to reduce iron concentration to 0.1 milligrams per liter when the initial concentration is up to 3 milligrams per liter. And also, with the results of this research, we are constructing a plant at Meerigama Water Supply Scheme, and we added a rapid sand filter also to observe other parameters after rapid sand filtration with low-cost material. And based on these results, these recommendations can be made. So it is recommended to carry out more samples to improve the accuracy of the research. And again, we have to optimize G values to obtain more successful results. And since we have iron levels, initial iron levels of more than 3, like 6 milligrams per liter, we recommend to do for those initial concentrations also. These are the references which we use. Thank you.